Okie dokie, it's time to do one of my favourite types of videos. It's time to go to my favourite model train exhibition. It's the St. Luke's Model Train Exhibition for 2018. Now this is going to confuse you, and it confuses me. They have actually changed seasons to do this display. This was in May of 2018. It's the 31st time this small church has pulled off this exhibition. Normally they display in November, in the warmer time of year in Australia. I know you're going to say, but Leo, where we live, it's cool in November. But hey, I live down in Australia, and also the world is not flat. The world's actually round. Now, with St. Luke's changing to this different season, and it's just prior to winter, they get away from the pre-Christmas crush that sees many fairs in Sydney. Being a cooler time of year, that may play as an advantage to the people who run model railways because the trains won't play up as much. We may not see as many Hand of God shots as we like to see at St. Luke's, but I can assure you, because this is a model train exhibition attached to a church, you're never going to get away from those classic Hand of God shots. I've been coming to this model railway exhibition for many years. To me, it ticks all the boxes in how trains should be displayed to the public. And this time round, I took with me a camera that I would normally not take to a show like this. I've been having lots of equipment failures and camera issues. Mind you, some of my cameras are getting a bit old now and they get used a lot. But I did get a surprise with the outcome of using this very small camera. Maybe I'll speak about this camera, if I remember, in this video. Okay, let's do it. The first display we're going to take a look at is called Civic. Now, I've seen this one before. I like this display. It's N scale. It's nice and small. Let me read from a pamphlet here so I know what I'm talking about. It says, Civic is an automatically operated N scale public transport system in a large city featuring trams and buses. The buildings are mainly Tomytec and Kato. Do you know those brands, Tomytec and Kato? Well, I don't know much about them. Maybe you've got this stuff. But what is nice here is this is a layout which features trams and buses, and there are many fans of this style of transportation system, especially in the model form. Every time I put my camera over this type of layout, I always get caught out by the way it starts and stops. I never really remember where those places are. So it often takes me quite a few times of this layout to play out before I can start to understand exactly what's going on. Being N scale, this is tiny scale, the whole layout isn't that big. And what is nice about St. Luke's, and I may say this a number of times in this video, is you can be right up nice and close to this very small scale layout, and you need to be close to N scale to fully appreciate it. And I should also add, Civic is presented by Ian Williamson. The next layout we're going to take a look at, it's one I've seen many times over and I like this layout. It's called Defty. It's the St. Luke's Club modular layout. It's made up on a number of tables and can be disassembled. And this year, it's running 00 gauge British rolling stock. If I was going to describe to you the shape of this layout, it's got two great big long straightaways, which is nice when you're running longer trains, and it's also got two bulbous curved ends. Overall, the whole layout looks like a dog bone. And my understanding, the purpose of this layout is that you have these great big long straightaways so you can enjoy a layout where you can get the trains up to maximum speed. Defty also has a dedicated circuit which is wired differently to the rest of the layout that can power the Hornby Live Steam styles of locomotives, and they are very impressive, but at the moment they're not on this layout, but we will take a look at them on this layout. And this format of model railway can be quite finicky to run, as we will see. This layout isn't about having things stuck down or being super critical about detail. It's about having fun for your trains, it's about being modular, and it's about being able to pack it away when it's not in play. So often when I look at Defty, there's a giant window behind it which allows in tons of natural light. The room that it's displayed in has these giant very yellow tungsten lights, so it's a real battle of the colour balance, and it's quite interesting to see how this camera has adapted to the many different colour temperatures that present at the St. Luke's Model Train Exhibition.
White tables in the, I think it's the fifth one.
The next layout is called Been a While. I think it's a play on words there. It's N scale. With N scale you can pack a lot of punch into a fairly small area, and this is a classic example of it. And it's presented by Wayne and Kylie Lewis, so let me read from the book here. A freelance New South Wales based N scale layout. The back scene is hand painted by my grandmother, and all the family have contributed to the scenic work. And yes, if you get down nice and low and pretend you're N scale yourself, I tell you what, this is very impressive. That painted background does just meld in to the scenery that is around the layout, and N scale is terrific when it's done right. I can tell you, I'm very impressed with this. It's nice and saturated in colour, and seeing that is unusual because most times when people represent the Australian environment or the Australian bush, you'll often find it's desaturated because there's not really vibrant greens in a natural Australian environment. So having the colour saturation nice and vibrant where the trains are running around, what you notice is that painted background is a little bit desaturated and it gives the illusion of distance. It's a fantastic little trick to pull off, and here it works really well. This layout incorporated lots of N-scale Thomas and Friends characters, and that's nice for the children, and Henry was really playing up. Who knows, he may have been dragging along Gordon's coaches and that's caused a huff and puff in Thomas Land. But I was happy because I got lots of those handed God shots, which gives away the scale. I think it's really important to see that. And there's always plenty of these at the St. Luke's Model Railway exhibition. This was the first time this exhibit was at the St. Luke's train show, and I had a chat to, I believe it was Kylie Lewis, and I think she thought I was a joke because here's this big guy with this tiny little camera in his hand, and they must have just thought, oh yeah, here's another clown with a camera over our layout. Well, hopefully they'll see this up on YouTube and that clown has come good, I hope. And here comes my broken record statement in relation to displaying N-scale. As I said on Civic, notice here on this layout we are nice and close. We could put our eyes right down as if we were playing in amongst the layout. It was set at a child-friendly height. If the children want to be monsters, they could be like Godzilla and cause havoc across the railway. And I said to the people running this, aren't you worried about this? And they said, well, no. If something needs to be fixed, a little spot of super glue will fix it. But they were far happier to have people engage with their layout and being up nice and close and pretending they were part of the layout than having to have them stand back a metre and not appreciating it at all. This layout held people's attention for a very long period of time. I noticed I took a lot of video of this layout as well, and that's ticking all the boxes in the way you should display your trains.
Right. So they'll probably have to leave earlier. I've got other trains running around the line.
What's it doing, buddy?
So let's return to Defty, which is the St. Luke's Model Railway Club's modular layout. It has the ability to run the Hornby Live Steam system, which runs on 18 volts. The gentleman called Rob Evans looks after this, and he has been looking after this for a number of years, and he's made a number of modifications to his system to assist him in controlling the trains. Playing with the Hornby Live Steam trains, definitely not for the amateur, and it's definitely not for children. These little trains get hot just like real steam engines, and they take water and they basically play out like real steam engines. They even have the temperament of a real steam engine as well. And I think on this occasion Rob was dealing with a fairly temperamental train that really didn't want to steam on. I've been looking at model railway forums that speak about the Hornby Live Steam system, and it really divides the model railway fraternity. Some people denounce this as being a complete failure, other people praise it as being the best thing that's happened to small scale model trains for the fact that it's steam powered. But there's another thing I notice when I look online about the Hornby Live Steam, and that's when I take a look at the prices on eBay. I'll put it this way, the prices aren't going down. These are becoming very sought after and very collectible sets, especially when they haven't been tinkered with, that they are mint in box and not fiddled with. That's when they pull the premium price. I think a lot of people have bought these sets and they've pulled out of the box and they've struggled to get it to run properly because they haven't got a dedicated track that's all soldered up and a nice long track. These trains need nice long running tracks to work properly, and we might come back to Defty once the Live Steam has been sorted out. The next wondrous display we'll take a look at, I say it like this, Legox Land, but apparently with European Flaying, it sounds like this, Legoland. It's presented by a gentleman called Richie Doolan. I've got to know Richie over the years. Fantastic Lego builder, I can tell you. He really tackles some interesting things. He showed me on his phone pictures of Thunderbird craft that he was doing. Very, very nice. And every time I see this display, it morphs and changes. There are buttons there to push so you can operate the rides. It's a very interactive display, and it reminds me a lot of the old push button museum that used to be in Sydney, and now it's called the Powerhouse Museum. It's great catching up with Richie because he really knows his Lego sets, especially the historical ones and also the upcoming ones. And one he spoke about with me, and hopefully I've got the pictures rolling as I talk here, was a 3-in-1 set. I call it the Fairground set. It's probably got another name. But Richie was very excited about that set because he could incorporate parts of that and make something very, very new and fancy in his display. And because we're Lego Train fanboys, the other thing we spoke about was the new format that they've done with the Lego Trains, and they've changed the way the trains are controlled. Thank goodness, because the old controllers were a bit vague. But what I'm noticing is on the base set, there is a huge price variation in the stores in the city where I live, like a $50 variation on that set, so be very careful when you're picking that set up. As I always say, buyer beware.
That way, can you see anyone?
The next layout, it's an Australian themed layout, and one giveaway is, on their sign they had an Australian spider. That's called a redback spider. This is called Dunlop Blurtin. It's presented by the East Hills Model Railway Club, and I'm just reading from the little book here. An N-scale layout based on the Southern Highlands of New South Wales. The new freeway has bypassed the town and the area is in decline. That's a very common ideal in Australia, I can tell you. The buildings are in the style of the old Saltbush Bill cartoon strip. I don't know that cartoon strip, maybe I need to Google it now. And I'm just reading on here from something I read at the display. The layout was originally built by Peter Cartwright and the late John Nesbitt. So it's a way of living on in time, is by making a nice model railway and people remember you for ages. And its first public showing was way back in 1990. So again, we're looking at the glory of N-scale. It's a small scale that can pack a lot of punch into a very small area, and this is another fantastic example of this. So this being an Australian themed layout, that's nice. I can see the rolling stock is Australian, but there's another thing here, and I think I spoke about this on a previous layout we looked at in this video. Look at the way the bush looks. Okay, let's just go back to Been a While. Okay, I'm just showing Been a While now. Remember I spoke about the colour of the trees? Okay, now let me go to this layout here, Dunlop Blurtin, and you can see it's quite desaturated versus Been a While. I feel this layout here, Dunlop Blurtin, has really captured the look of what you would see if you were travelling by train, especially down in the New South Wales Southern Highlands. And just as I drift onto the thought of Australian themed layouts which have really pinged off the Australian look, I always think back to another train show. It was a massive layout. I think it was called the Bethungra Spiral. I hope I'm correct there. To me, that layout really nailed the Australian look. It's a Spartan look. It can look dead. It can look desaturated. But I tell you what, Dunlop Blurtin here has done a very good job also of representing the way Australia looks. I did have a sneak peek around the back of this layout to see the marshalling yards, to see the rolling stock being sorted out for show. Those running this display are kept very busy. It does look like it's just DC controlled, so it's old, keep it simple, stupid, old school, nothing wrong with that. I could also see tons of plaques that this layout has achieved when it is displayed at a train show, and I'm only showing a small number of them. There were many, many more. And I think one of the really, really nice things this layout achieved that really sold that tiny scale, which is N scale, is the trains were moving at a very slow speed. I haven't had to slow up any of the video in showing you this. It looked very realistic, and I think it's really important to do when you're playing with the smaller scale trains. Well done, Dunlop Blurtin. I was highly impressed. I'm just looking at the duration of this video and I'm starting to get fearful that this video is getting a tad too long for today's ridiculous version of YouTube. You see, these days it's all geared to flash in the pan type videos. If you're not pulling good attention span data, YouTube will just neatly hide this video totally away. Maybe if I give you a fantastic example of this, of a recent video I made, and it's normally a video that would pop up and be very popular right out of the box and stay popular. It was the Dark Side video related to the Tomy Big Loader set. When I saw that video flop, well, part of me wasn't surprised at all. I've been seeing this style of pull down going on for about 2.5 years now. And basically, while this goes on, it's not even viable to make a video for this site because I can barely recover the cost of the toys that you see in that video from the YouTube income these days. And I think the other very astonishing thing is just how lackluster the views is from what they call YouTube Premium, which used to be YouTube Red. That just must be a total and epic utter failure, the whole idea. And in reality, this train show video should really be no longer than, let's say, 5 minutes. It seems people's attention span, as the years go on, when they look at online videos, is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. When we kick off with part 2 of this train show, we'll take a look at the most amazing layout called JB Mining. In my books, it was the best layout on display. I have seen this layout before. This time round, it's in far better lighting, and it's had an extension built onto it. It's also a bit of an unusual scale, and we may chat about the different model railway scales, and man, is that a deep subject. And don't worry, I'll also reveal the camera that I used to shoot this model railway exhibition, and believe me, it is not my usual camera. Anyway, sorry for splitting this video. If I kept going on here, it would have punched up past 50 minutes long, and in reality what I should have done was divided this video up into 3-minute segments and spammed these videos all across YouTube. That seems to be the only way to be successful now.